Something unexpected happened after I told you the story of a man convicted of murdering his own wife.
I am 100% innocent. That means someone else killed my wife.
If you haven't heard season 1 of Bone Valley, you might want to go back and listen. It's the story of Leo Schofield, who spent 36 years in prison for a crime he swears he did not commit.
I just want justice for my dead wife. That's what I want.
After investigating his case for years, I'm convinced he's telling the truth. Because I also met the one man who says he knows for sure that Leo is innocent.
I'm saying he didn't do it now. That's what I mean. He didn't do it.
Jeremy Scott told me in terrifying detail how he was the one who killed Michelle Schofield.
So she gave me a ride, and that's when I guess I lost it then. And she went screaming and panicking and stuff.
When I first learned about Jeremy Scott, I didn't want to know any more than I had to.
It was too late.
Here was a man with a history of extraordinary violence. He was impulsive and volatile, attacking random citizens and teenage girls on the outside, and cellmates, guards, and nurses while locked behind bars. I'll admit, at first I saw Jeremy as sort of a monster. It was Leo, of all people, who changed my mind. Leo, whose wife was murdered by this man, was able to see something in Jeremy that I couldn't.
I was looking for this creature that, I could hate, that I could detest, I could be repulsed by and vindicated in all of it. And then you see him, and what is he? He's a broken individual, a broken vessel, someone who's never known what it is to be loved. My prayer is that somehow he comes to know a love that gives him some kind of peace.
Jeremy was trying to tell me, and anyone who would listen, the truth, that he was the guilty one, not Leo.
I've been trying to help him. I'm doing everything I could.
In season 1 of Bone Valley, I told you the story of a man fighting to prove his innocence. This season, the story of a man trying to prove his own guilt, and the unlikely collection of people who heard Jeremy confess and out of nowhere stepped forward to help him make things right.
So I spoke to Jeremy yesterday.
And I try to encourage him to stay out of trouble, and I would tell him.
Because I did love him. I did love Jeremy. And it wasn't until...
You knew him a little bit, right?
I just knew him as a kid.
Yeah.
Hi, Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
Jeremy Scott confessed, and the state of Florida doesn't believe him. These are the stories of the people who do.
When y'all wanted to talk to me before, I tried. I couldn't do it. I never talked to anybody about any of this. I couldn't sit here a year ago. I couldn't do it. I could do it today.
Everything in life takes effect,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to hide nothing. Everything I say, I want everybody to hear. Like at the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Do you hear my madness? Laughter hides my fears. Sorrow's depths are endless in this valley of tears. I wanna see
Valley Season 2, Jeremy, Chapter 1, You Told Me No. One morning, in the fall of 2022, I woke up to a flood of text messages, a missed call, and a voicemail that came in at 1 a.m.
Hi, Gilbert King. This is Justin Allen. I was born on March 5th, 1989. I'm the son of Jami Nellums. Her name used to be Jami Allen, and the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
Jeremy's son wanted to talk to me.
If you could just call me back, please. Bye.
I texted him back right away, and we started chatting. His messages felt urgent. He'd just finished listening to his father confess to murder. Justin wrote, "Sorry for getting excited and talking so much. I've never had a chance to talk about my dad, and I'm 34.
Hello?
Hey, Justin.
Hey,
It's
how's it
Gilbert.
going?
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm so sorry I missed you last night. I know it was late. I was asleep the whole time. I woke up this morning.
I was a little crazy.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean,
One of the first of a long list of things Justin wants to talk about is actually not his dad. It's Leo. Justin has listened to our podcast and done all these sleepless calculations, and he's come to this conclusion.
With the Leo situation, if you really stop and think about it, I pretty much owe him my life.
If Jeremy had gone to jail instead of Leo, Justin would have never been conceived.
Stop thinking about it. The murder was in 1987, right?
right.
Okay. Leo ended up taking the hit for my dad, but within that time, my dad was free, and he was still with my mom, and they had me. So if the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
While we're on the phone, I realize Justin is with his own son.
I'm sorry. I'm holding my boy right now and just pacing back and forth and just I got a lot on my mind.
Yeah.
Here, hold on. Here's some crayons. He wants to color now. His birthday was yesterday.
Oh, sweet. 2 years old?
Yeah, he just turned 2. He's tall.
He tells me he's raising his son with his girlfriend, Ariel, who also has 3 young daughters from a prior relationship.
That's how I look at it. They're my girls because I take care of them with my girl.
This is why his voicemail came in so late at night. He's incredibly busy. He works the night shift as a supermarket manager, and during the day, he's taking care of the kids while Ariel's at work.
My boy, 2 years old, and I'll talk about him walking and trying to talk now and everything else. He likes super monsters, I'm trying to teach him right, and this is all thanks to Leo taking the fucking hit from my dad.
Justin tells me he feels immense guilt about Leo Schofield.
If I'm able to help Leo, it'll make me feel more comfortable about myself because I feel guilty even being alive. I'm not going to lie. Because think about it, the dude lost his wife and had to go to jail for 35 years just to have the killer that killed your wife, son, live.
In the podcast, he heard his dad trying to tell the truth about Michelle's murder to help absolve Leo. It was the first time he ever heard his dad speak.
Dude, when I heard my dad's voice, that shit hit me. Because no one ever talks about my dad.
Yeah.
Justin told me, growing up, his mom never spoke about his dad at all. Nothing bad, nothing good, just nothing. But when he was around other family members, he'd catch bits and pieces.
I did know my dad was, from a young age. I listened. I'm not stupid. I knew he killed from a very young age. It's just whenever I hear stories about him, it's always something different. I don't know what's true or false.
Yeah.
As we talk, I get the sense that overnight, Justin has embarked on a delicate and complicated mission to find out everything he can about his dad, however difficult, and to see if any of what he learns can bolster his dad's confession and help Leo. A big part of that mission is getting his mom, Jami, to talk to me. Among the texts he sent me were screenshots of a Facebook conversation he had with her. He tells her he just finished listening to the podcast and he floods the chat box between them with questions about Jeremy's murders, whether or not Jeremy really loved her, if he tried to kill her. She answers his questions, and she tells him that his dad only saw him once.
You read in text, the first time he ever cried in front of her was seeing me.
Yeah.
He's never once held me.
I already knew something about Justin's mom, Jami Nellums. She was Jeremy's girlfriend around the time of Michelle Schofield's murder. While I was investigating Jeremy's crimes, I saw her name in police reports. So Kelsey and I tried to talk to her years ago. She even agreed to meet us for lunch at a nearby restaurant in Polk County. She texted me that she was on her way. We waited and waited, but Jami never showed up, and I never heard from her again. But now, after hearing his dad talk for the very first time, Justin was asking Jami to talk to me. In the messages to his mom, he talked about hearing Jeremy's voice. He wrote, "He sounded alone and afraid, always on guard, trust issues. Weirded me out how alike we are." He wanted to know if she heard the podcast too. She says, "I haven't. I'm sorry, hon. I can't bring myself to hear his voice again." He says, "I understand fully." And when he tells her, "I'm trying to contact Gilbert King now and see what happens," she says, "He tried to contact me a while back. I wouldn't talk to him. I just couldn't do it." Later on, she says, "My psych doctor thinks I should tell my story to Gilbert King, if it would be therapeutic." Justin urges me to contact her again. He says she wants to talk now.
How are you feeling about this? Microphone and all of that.
It's okay. I'm a little more okay with it now than I was.
Sure.
It's just, when all this first started and everything, I spent so many years trying not to think about it and not to talk about it.
Kelsey and I rent a hotel room for our interview with Jami.
So it was really rough there for a while because I went through years of nightmares and the paranoia.
Kelsey has arranged the room simply. 3 chairs, a table in the middle, and 2 microphones set up.
I'm going to have you sit here.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't mind.
I sit down across from Jami. She's dressed in jeans and a blouse, her short brown hair showing just a hint of gray. She's visibly nervous as we settle around the table.
First approached me about doing this, I tried.
I wanted to start slowly, assuming she might have a hard time opening up. But as she spoke, I realized that this was going to be different from the Jami I'd come to know through depositions and courtroom transcripts.
Justin finally reached a point where he wanted to start asking questions.
In those formal settings, she was responding to lawyers focused solely on the facts. Here, it became clear she was responding to Justin. She was determined to give him the answers he'd always wanted about his father's life and her own.
If me dealing with my crap can help him, it's worth it. It's worth it. I can deal with this to help him. If it's just for me, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm just being real. If it was just to do your book or just to do a podcast or whatever, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'm doing this for Justin. I really am.
Where were you born? What did your parents do for a living? Just give us an idea of your growing up and what you remember.
Okay. I can remember weekends at my grandmother's house. She had 13 kids, and there'd be like 30 of us, all his cousins. We'd go over on Friday. We'd stay there till Sunday. The parents would all be in the house playing canasta all weekend. They'd have their weekend marathon. The kids were outside playing.
We used to play in the orange grove. And Jami, all of us, the cousins, we would go over there and we would play like freeze tag or, hide and seek and, things like that in the orange grove.
Jennifer Stone lived just 2 doors down from Jami's grandma.
we knew all the neighbors. All the neighbors knew all the kids and who they belonged to. So if you did something you weren't supposed to, your parents were going to hear about it.
When Jami was 7, her mom married a strict and controlling ex-Navy guy. By the time she turned 17, they're divorced, and her mom gets a job as head nurse at a local hospital.
She worked 12-hour shifts, so we were pretty much on our own.
Jami found herself experiencing a new sense of freedom, one she'd never known before. With her stepfather out of the picture, she could finally breathe, and in that space, there's a quiet resistance to the control she'd grown up under.
Well, we found that club, Secrets. Picture a rave club with no alcohol. It was a safe place for teenagers. They didn't let people over 18 in. And it was a dance club. It had the flashing lights and the neon lights. And we would wear the white shirts with the black lights, it would kind of glow.
One night in April 1987, Jami's sitting in a chair right off the dance floor. She's got thick brown hair and glasses, like a wallflower, hiding off to the side with her friend Maria when they see this teenage boy enter the club. He's tall and thin, and he moves with confidence and a quiet presence that's hard to ignore. His name is Jeremy Scott.
None of us had ever seen him before.
And he's heading toward them.
Well, when I first met him, the first thing I thought was his eyes. He had the most piercing eyes. They would just look into you. And I can remember sitting in the chairs and he was wearing all black. So you couldn't really see him, but you could see his eyes, and he was just staring at me. And I can remember being nervous, because I'd never had a boyfriend before, never really talked about. I was so shy, bad. And I remember him kicking my chair and saying, "You want to dance?" And we danced, and that was it.
At the end of the night, Jeremy walked her to her car.
I had a big 73 Cutlass Supreme.
Jami's friend Maria leaned on one side of the car with her boyfriend.
They were hugging and kissing and stuff.
While Jeremy and Jami settled by the driver's side.
And we just kind of stood there awkwardly for a few minutes, and he asked if next Friday I'd meet him at the mall. Well, I was kind of iffy because the ones that went to the mall were the type of kids that didn't go to Secrets. These were the smokers and the drinkers, and that's where the cops would always show up, was at the mall. But I said, yeah, I'd meet him at the mall, and I did.
From what I've learned about Jeremy, Secrets seems like the last place he'd want to be. Tight supervision, no alcohol, and parents hovering just outside. So a few nights later, Jami meets up with Jeremy at one of his usual spots, behind the Lakeland Mall.
Now, when I met him at the mall, I asked him where he was staying at, and he said he was staying downtown. He did ask me for a ride home, and I had dropped him off at this house, and I remember looking at this house and thinking it looked abandoned. Like nobody lived there, like it was falling apart. But there was lights on upstairs. There was people staying there. It was all kids like him. They were hijacking electricity off the apartment complex behind it with cords. So that's how they had lights on. So come to find out, that's where he stayed at a lot, and that's where he would take me a lot of times, was to abandoned houses. And that's where, he'd be like, you're staying with me tonight, and we'd go downtown and find an abandoned building, and we'd climb in and go to sleep. And here I got a nice townhouse and bed waiting for me at home, and I'm in love, and honestly, if I want to be honest, it was kind of exciting.
Jeremy's hanging out with people like this guy named Rambo, a stocky 20-something who wears camo, rides a motorcycle, and who spent some time in the Polk County Jail on burglary charges.
They were not my people.
Jamie's childhood friend Jennifer was less than impressed with Jamie's new boyfriend.
I wasn't comfortable with the people that he was with, and I never understood what she saw in him, to be honest with you. They were, the headbanging rock and roller, the drugging type was what we referred to them as. They were just looking at them. Okay, it sounds very judgmental, but being an adult now, I would say a bunch of lowlifes. But she was my friend. We were young, but dumb kids. She was in love.
Jami spending more and more time trying to understand Jeremy's secret off-the-grid world. She wants to know more about him and the people who matter in his life.
He talked a lot about his grandmother. He talked a lot about his grandfather and how they used to call him Jeremiah, and that Jeremiah was a bullfrog. That was his grandfather's favorite song, and they called him Bam Bam, and they thought it was so cute because he'd beat everything up with sticks and stuff and thought it was funny.
As we talked with Jami, I could sense she was allowing herself to remember not just the painful truths Justin would have to confront about his father, but perhaps for the first time in decades, she was willing to think about why she'd once been drawn to Jeremy Scott.
Jeremy had that good side, and he had that funny side, and he could be sweet and caring, and he had that good in him. I saw it.
But Jami also found herself doing things for Jeremy, things she never would have imagined doing before she met him. At first, it wasn't anything too bad, just sort of weird.
I had money, all I had to do was ask. But he would take me and we'd go donate plasma, and we'd do that 3 times a week.
It's not unlike giving blood to the Red Cross. They'd go into a harsh, fluorescent-lit room where people wait in long lines, trading the plasma in their blood for cash.
And I know the first time he took me, it was like $100 for being a first-time donor. They pay you a large amount. And but then after that, I think it was like 25 the first time, 15 the second time, and 10 the third time. So it was like $50, something like that. And then as soon as we get done, I'd give him the money.
It's like they live in separate worlds. While Jami roller skates with friends, Jeremy's getting drunk in the park. While she's in school, he's breaking into houses and pawning whatever he can.
We'd been together a while, we weren't together all the time. I mean, this is the thing you've got to understand. I would see him for 2 or 3 days, and then I wouldn't see him for 3 or 4 months. And then I'd see him for 2 or 3 days, and then I wouldn't see him for 6 weeks. He didn't have a house phone, he didn't have a house, so he'd either call me from a payphone or I wouldn't hear from him. And when he would show up, he'd call from a payphone, hey, meet me down the road. Then when I would see him, it was constant. He was right there in my face, constant, and I couldn't go anywhere or do anything without him right there.
One day, Jeremy tells Jami he wants to take a trip a few hours north. Jeremy gets behind the wheel, even though he doesn't have a license.
He was wanting me to meet his mom. I hadn't met his mom yet.
After hours of driving, they finally make it to Perry, Florida. Jeremy pulls into a gas station where his mother, Linda, is working.
It was the only gas station in the whole town. And I can remember us pulling up to the gas station and her coming out, and her exact words were, "What the F are you doing here?" And I just kind of sat there in shock. I'm like, oh my God, this is his mom, And he turned around and he got back in the car and we drove down the road and he pulled off the side of the road and I looked at him and I said, "Are you okay?" And I guess I shouldn't have said that. And as soon as I said, "Are you okay?" he punched me as hard as he could. And he kicked me out of the car. And I can remember him kicking me out of the car and me looking down this road and there's nothing but palmetto trees and big old pine trees and nothing. There's no building, you know? And I started crying, and I'm thinking he's going to leave me here. I don't know anybody. I'm not going to talk to that lady. You know? I'm not talking to her. She talks to her son that way. What's she going to say to me? You know? And about 10 minutes later, he came back. He came back and he picked me back up.
They make the long, quiet drive back to Polk County. From that moment on, her fear was mounting and always there. Sitting in that hotel room with Jami, listening to her go back in time, I could see she was entering some of the territories she'd tried to leave behind. Things that caused her a lot of pain, and at times probably caused Justin some pain too.
She tried her best. She struggled a lot.
Yeah.
Like, she was far from a perfect mom, but she loved us.
Yeah.
Like, I give her that. She loved us with all her heart, and I knew that.
But it was a constant battle to keep Jeremy out of her mind.
I was burying him from me. Does that make sense? So it wasn't that I was trying to protect Justin. It wasn't that I was trying to keep him from Justin. I didn't talk about it to anybody.
But now, with Justin wanting to know everything, Jami told me it was time she said it all out loud. She takes us back to 1988. She's dating Jeremy, and he disappears yet again.
I still don't know what he went to prison for. I remember asking him several times, and he never answered me. I know Jeremy used to like to wait outside the Green Parrot and wait for the gay people to leave, and he'd beat them up with baseball bats and stuff.
He'd hang outside Lakeland's gay bars like the Green Parrot and Fantasy 2000.
As a matter of fact, that's how he ended up with stitches that one night. He ended up with stitches in his knee and in his head because he waited outside Green Parrot and they knew he was there and jumped him. And he got some of his own medicine.
The lesson doesn't take, and he's soon back at Lake Morton after dark, prowling for his next targets.
I mean, everybody knew what Lake Morton was, and that was the gay hangout. And a lot of them got robbed, a lot of them got beat up, a lot of them got hurt. And it was just never reported. It was never in the newspapers, but everybody knew about it.
I know from going through court records that robbing gay men is not what Jeremy went to prison for this time. Instead, it was for breaking into a home in Lakeland, stealing a few cameras, a VCR, and some other electronics. He was caught, convicted, and sentenced to state prison, where he spent over 4 months, until his release in May of 1988.
When he got out from that was when he was really different. And I don't know if something happened while he was in prison, or I don't know what it was, but he was a total different person. And that's when his eyes were empty and there was nothing. I mean, he never smiled. There was nothing. There was nothing there. And I can remember looking at him and just not even really recognizing him, not even knowing who he was.
Weeks after Jeremy got out of prison, Jami remembers him disappearing again. For a while, she didn't see or hear from him. She had no idea where he was. Until one hot summer morning, when Jami, her sisters, and her mom were getting ready to head to Disney World for the day.
He shows up that morning. I hadn't seen him in like 3 weeks. My mom was nice enough to offer to pay for him to go to Disney World with us, and he said no. But then he told me I couldn't go. And my mom put her foot down. No, she's going. We've already bought tickets. It's family day. We're going. That was the first time I'd ever told him no. I had never told him no before, ever, for anything. Anything he ever asked me to do, I did it.
Except for this time. Jami leaves with her mom and her sisters. They spend the entire day at the Magic Kingdom. And as they step into their ground floor apartment that night, they see him, Jeremy. He's outside, knocking on the sliding glass door.
He was in the backyard waiting, and I'm pretty sure he sat there all day.
Jami steps out into the backyard. Jeremy gives a small wave, motioning for her to follow. It's dark now. Jeremy leads her to a spot behind the townhouses, out of sight.
He bent over and he stood up and he turned around and he said, "You told me no," and that's the last thing I remember. And that's when it really got bad, because I think that's when it was ingrained in me to never again tell him no. And I never did.
I remember something with her jaw. It was always kind of out of whack, not properly aligned. And I thought she was in a car accident. It was my understanding of what happened. Is that really what happened? I don't know. She had bruises, and, there was a couple times you could see where it looked like he grabbed her. Someone grabbed her. She had bruises on her arms, and it looked like someone had punched her in the face. But, I fell. I can't remember what her explanation was, but, I fell, I wasn't paying attention. But she always explained it away. So what are you going to say? I never saw him do anything. She never told me he did anything.
I think there was a part of me that thought I could help him, that I could make it better, make him feel loved, and he'd be okay, and maybe he wouldn't do the things that he was doing. You know what I'm saying? But I know that by the end, it was all fear. There was no love there. It was all fear. Jeremy was in jail when I found out I was pregnant.
By the fall of 1988, Jami's been seeing Jeremy for about a year and a half, always on his terms. She's 18 now, and she drops out of school.
I was having to stay with my grandmother because my mom found out I was pregnant and she kicked me out. So I was living at my grandmother's house, and Jeremy showed up, and I was showing. I was scared to death, and I can remember him calling me a couple weeks later and telling me some bull-ass story about he was dying of some disease and I needed to find somebody else. And I can remember thinking in the back of my mind, he's breaking up with me because I'm pregnant. And the sick part of me was angry. How dare you break up with me because I'm pregnant with your kid? And I can remember I started crying, and my Aunt Mary walked in. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "He just broke up with me because I'm pregnant." And then all of a sudden I caught myself and I stopped and I smiled and I said, "He just broke up with me because I'm pregnant."
Jami thought she was finally rid of Jeremy and all the chaos, the violence, and the abuse. But 2 weeks later, he's back. This time, with blood on his pants and a stolen car. He wants Jami to get in. And by now, Jami knows the consequences of telling Jeremy no. Next time.
I knew I wasn't coming back. I knew if they didn't catch him, I was going to die.
Bone Valley is a production of Lava for Good podcast in association with Signal Company No. 1. Our executive producers are Jason Flom, Jeff Kempler, and Kevin Wirtis. Kara Kornhaber is our senior producer. Jackie Pauley and Hannah Beal are our producers. Britt Spangler is our sound designer. Marianne McCune is our editor. Fact-checking by Danya Suleiman. Jeff Clyburn is our head of marketing and operations. Our social media director is Ismati Guardrama. Our social media manager is Sarah Gibbons, and our art director is Andrew Nelson. Additional research and production by Kelsey Decker. Additional sound recording by James Johnson. Bone Valley is written and produced by me, Gilbert King. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads at Lava for Good.